I started off by meeting an honourable lady called Elizabeth Beckett back in the 1997, I think it was, and she'd been fighting the unlawful council tax for quite some time, and the government on other issues. And she explained what was actually going on, and because she had various treaties and stuff that I could actually look into myself, I became her mentor, really. She became my mentor for nearly 2 years, and I learned about what was happening and what we have to do to stop this, and that is to stand together against it. So I've come to this from a kind of a privileged angle, if you like, from actually understanding what treason is, what it means to us, and what it will mean to us if we allow this to carry on. So my main motivation was some years later, I'd hit the road and living in a 7.5-ton truck for sort of 10 years, spreading the word about the treasonous aspects of the EU and our imposters in government. And I came across a meeting that John Harris was putting on in Glastonbury. So I went down to listen to it, talking about the Free Man on the Land movement and also Lawful Rebellion. And I got quite inspired, actually, by that talk. Then I decided to enter into Lawful Rebellion myself. And what I did was I served affidavits on Buckingham Palace myself, which was kind of double think. Didn't have to do that because the Barons Petition Committee had already done that in 2001. But I did that nevertheless to create a paper trail for my defence. And this is what we're doing while we're writing notices and affidavits. We're actually creating evidence for our defence and evidence against the criminals that are doing the bidding of the imposters in our country. So I didn't actually have anything pending at the time. I was living in a 7.5-ton truck, as I said, and so I went after the DVLA to deregister it, because I'm not going to be in Lawful Rebellion, part way. I was going to actually practice it. Pardon?
That's right. You've got to live it, haven't you?
Well, you've got to do it. I mean, I've been talking about it for years, and I said, well, I said to myself, well, it's about time I actually practiced it, put it into, see if it really is going to work. It had already worked on another occasion. I was living at Avebury at the time, and I kind of took over the sanctuary car park at Avebury, claiming, because the council came up to try and evict a load of us, and I hit them with some treason information, and they went away. So I kind of took the car park over. That was like the first little success. But what I did was I notified DVLA that I was deregistering my truck, and that I was in Lawful Rebellion, and that I have lawful excuse to do this, and they've got no right to make any demands on me because of my standing. And of course, I could prove my standing by serving them with copies of my affidavit to Buckingham Palace. Yeah.
Was that a way of a notice of intent, David?
Well, it was a yes. Basically, I copied and used the same ones John Harris had provided, actually. And it's a bit of double thinking involved, because I got a solicitor, a member of the bar, to sign it. But still, the point was to create a paper trail. And I didn't have to do that anyway, because like I said, it's already been done. You don't have to write to Buckingham Palace. She's not even the Queen. I mean, there's a lot of double think involved in the free man movement and the whole topic in general, because there's been such a lot of propaganda out there, to do with our Constitution and Magna Carta.
Certainly has. Yes, I'm saying it certainly has. You say that about the Queen, but how do you think about, basically, is she abducted?
Basically,
by default, do you think? Can you dig into that for a few of our listeners who may not be familiar with the actions of our dear monarch of late? Okay, well,
of course, the treason in this country can go back to 104 years now, to the 1911 Parliament Act. Because the duty of a constitutional monarch is to prevent any laws being passed that don't comply to the Constitution. And the 1911 Parliament Act diluted the royal assent, by making it so that the monarch couldn't withdraw or pass a law without the aid of a government minister, which was actually unconstitutional, therefore treason. So Elizabeth Mountbatten, which is her real name really, she's not British, she's German, has always been an imposter on the throne here. Now it's going to be hard for some people to actually take on board, but you can see for yourself that when she signed the Coronation Oath Act in 1953, she signed it at the top of the document and underlined it. Well, the Coronation Oath Act is a contract. And, as we all know, contracts are signed at the end of all the wording. Well, that wasn't done. And she deposed herself of the title. Now, I say she deposed herself of the title, but she could have been usurped. Now, that's not for me to judge, really. That is for a jury of our peers to judge. And she can be arraigned in the courts because she's not the holder of the office of sovereign. But by the fact that many unlawful, unconstitutional laws have been passed, and as soon as the first one was passed, she was deposed or usurped from the crown.
Absolutely. Now, now that we've touched on sovereignty, what would you say would be sovereign? Would it be Parliament, the Queen, or the law itself, David? What's your line of thinking on this?
Well, the people are sovereign. What happened is really, when you look into it, now Parliament have claimed the sovereignty, but they don't have sovereignty. They're servants. They're public servants, or supposed to be. In fact, today, they're imposters, but they're supposed to be public servants. Now, the sovereignty is with the people. It's derived from the people, and it was given in protection to the monarch to protect it under various constitutional documents, but the Coronation Oath Act in particularly. So what we've got today is an empty office of sovereign, the imposters in government claiming sovereignty. But as soon as she breached the Coronation Oath, the sovereignty came back to the people. And of course, when our courts, as you mentioned earlier, are so corrupt, when there is no remedy in these courts, we have remedy under Article 61 of Magna Carta. So I've probably gone off a bit of a tangent there. So if you want to come back in and guide me back on.
No, that's fine. But I just touched on your point that, yes, indeed, that members of the Parliament, they're not sovereign, but they certainly act as if they do. But more worrying is that the police seem to think they do. An example of that would be a bit of an undercover video work that a brave gentleman by the name of Ben Fellow's done, where he brought an allegation against Ken Clark. The police were called to his home in order for him to make his complaint, for want of a better way of describing it, and he actually taped the whole thing, and there was absolutely no way, no suggestion at all that these people were going to even go and question this Ken Clark about it, I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. What's your thoughts on that, David?
Well, this is a typical thing that happens within an institutionalized treasonous regime. There is no law. There is no rule of law available. There's no protection from the Constitution available to the people. And of course, they just run amok. And it's all to do with deception. Now, because we are police by consent in this country, and we have lawful excuse to reject this current regime, that is basically all we have to do, is to reject it. They aren't lawful. The courts aren't lawful, and summons is but an invite. Now, I've done this. I sent notice of non-jurisdiction to a summons, and the summons was withdrawn, as well as an arrest warrant. Also, I didn't pay the fines imposed. This is to do with my deregistration of the truck, by the way. It was about 3 or 4 months, but I did actually get arrested for it, taking it on the road without tax insurance and MOT.
I feel like there's drill into that a bit. I'd be very interested to know what happened there, Dave.
Well, I got arrested. After a while, I didn't contract, didn't give joinder to the police, didn't consent to it. I was under duress at all times, so I was arrested, taken to Melton Police Station in Wiltshire, held overnight, and then up against the magistrates in the morning, where I claimed again under duress of circumstances, in lawful rebellion, lawful excuse to do what I'm doing, and I accepted leave to create my defence. So I accepted bail under duress and left to prepare my defence. But like I said, I didn't go back to the court. I served non-jurisdiction notices on the court, and but they basically still came after me at the time. So what I had to do was to get out of the way for a little while, and because I've had some intimidation from the local coppers, because I'd also tried to report the crime as treason at Devizes Police Station in the July of 2010, and had a complaint against the constable that wouldn't accept the evidence. So I was getting a little bit of hassle from the local cops. Not too bad, but it was enough to made me a little bit concerned. Also, a lot of corruption to do with my case, as I was. They forged my signature on a contract with a solicitor because I wasn't going to contract. So that was actually a forgery, which I had investigated by one of the top 5 forensic examiners in the country, and have I've got a bit of feedback from that, which I can present as evidence. I also was denied all my the video evidence of my detainment and arrest, and because the cops that arrested me committed fraud, they wouldn't make the differentiation between common law and statute, constitutional law, and the unlawful statutes that are around today. So they committed fraud. A lot of cover up. They stole my truck, impounded it, put an unlawful lien on it, didn't give me a chance to address the lien. Then they claimed there wasn't a lien on it, and they put a retention order on it. Basically, they kept my home from me for about nearly a month, and by corruption, basically, which I can prove. I've got video evidence of the phone calls and everything else. But so what I did was I headed off to Yorkshire and stayed with some freeman friends of mine for about 18 months, and I kept out of the way because I realised that the system was so corrupt that I would have no chance of remedy within their not courts of law. And so I got a little bit apathetic, actually. So I kept out of the way for a while, thinking, well, I've done my bit, But after a short time, after 18 months, quite a long time actually, I decided to go back after them and create a document to try to achieve remedy. Because I'm looking to get a trial by jury, of course, in a properly convened court du jour. So I wrote up a rather large affidavit, which can be viewed on Google or any internet browser. If you were to punch in David of the Robinson Family Affidavit of Truth, you'll see a rather large affidavit which I served on the court manager, the legal advisor of the court. Eventually, I also served one very similar on the Attorney General, Dominic Grieve. And of course, after I served this document, they all basically backed off, not only because of this document, but also I served notices of misprision of treason on individuals that were coming after me. Sorry?
Now then, that's very interesting. Can you explain the difference between treason and the way you framed it for the mechanics of law and how that seemed to get a result, please, David? It's a fascinating.
Well, it's a very powerful remedy, and because I have used it and it has worked every single time, I implore people to look at it. Right. Well, treason under the 1795 Treason Act. Section 1 is misprision of treason. Now, misprision is to know of an act of treason being planned or committed within or without the realm of the United Kingdom or Commonwealth, and not to report that crime to a justice of the peace as soon as you possibly can. Then you are also committing treason yourself. Now, that's a very important thing to know, because if I serve a notice of misprision of treason on a police chief inspector like I had done, and they don't report the crime, then I've got evidence against him for misprision of treason, which is a very serious crime. It's total asset stripping, and you can spend the rest of your life in prison for that crime. So it's a very important crime.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's a powerful one.
Well, David, I believe we got a caller from the US. It's rather early, but it seems they've been on hold, I think, for 5 minutes. Are they still there, Andy?
Yes, I don't know about Andy, but this is Reverend Dalton.
Hello, Reverend Dalton, do you say?
My name is Reverend Rosemary Dalton.
Hello. Very welcome to you. Welcome to Common Law Court of Wales. Would be fascinated. What have you got to say for us, Reverend?
I have a question.
By the way.
If you get a response back from your very top chief inspector, like the DOJ of the United States, and he replies back to you, says, yes, you were deprived of your rights during your adoption case, but otherwise, because your case is 14 years old, we are not going to press charges. What do you do? They said statute of limitations bars them from it. Well, racketeering and kidnapping and fraud upon the court and conspiracy against rights and prosecutorial misconduct, all that, there is no statute of limitations. How do you force a chief inspector to put your case before a jury so you can have an indictment?
Well, this is the problem we face now. In America, it's much more difficult as opposed to the amount of money one needs. I mean, the system over there is very much set up to absolutely suck you dry, not financially, but of all your energy. It will drain you for years upon years upon years. As you say in there, 14 years now, and I'm counting. 14
years. That's when my case ended. Yes. It was 14 years. My son was gone for 17. So my son was in prison while I was in prison for 17 years, wrongfully done. My son was legally kidnapped. They falsely accused me of everything. They had no evidence. I have all the evidence to prove them, all of it, including my TPR, says there was no evidence of anything. And they stole my child. But they will not persecute. And I'm demanding it, and they're going against my rights. I was born here. I'm a sovereigner. I'm a United States citizen, and they won't help me. Nobody will help me. I can't get anybody to help me. I'm like doing this, and I'm writing all these things, and there's what you call fraudulent concealment Clayton there. And that says I follow all the qualifications on it. That says my statute of limitations have been told. Criminally, civilly, all of it. They cannot deny me. So I told them that I'm going to hold them accountable under misimprisonment of a felon, which is a crime too, and hold them accountable if they don't file charges. Because it's my right to a jury. I know it's my right. And I know that's a right in most countries. I think.
Yes, it's certainly the system is not geared up to help the normal person at all. It is simply there to keep the system intact. I mean, what you face there is absolutely horrific, and we have a very similar case here in Port Talbot with the Linda Lewis case. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with that, but we'd like to help you. You're not on your own. I myself are in contact with a few people span across America. What I would like to do, Reverend, would be to maybe if you get me your Skype details, and we can really hook up together and go into this and give it the time and the consideration which it really deserves. How do you feel about that, my dear?
That's fine. My name is Rosemary Dalton. I'm on Facebook. I'm a reverend. I'm one of the religious leaders of an independent minister. I have been trying this all by myself for many, many years. I made my video by myself. I did everything by myself, and now I'm just now getting people to help, come out. But I really need somebody to help me. I'm forcing my rights, and I don't know how to get my rights heard. I'm trying. I've tried everything. I've been all the way to the very top guy of the nation, and the whole judicial system has failed me.
Right. I understand, and we're very much facing the same problems here. But as I expressed to you, I'd like to give this and get into this with you with more time, the time which it deserves, and we can hook up with a few other people who are got experience in the circumstances which you find yourself in, and we can drill into it a lot deeper. Would that be okay?
That'd be fine.
Well, great. Listen, don't think you're on your own. You're certainly not. As I say, I send you our love and our thoughts are with you. But we'll definitely touch base soon. If you can email the show with your details, I can pass you my Skype details and we can get some kind of thing going. Now, our email is the Common Law Court of Wales @outlook.com.
Can you send me that link?
Yes, we can send a link in the box there, Andy, and we'll get back to you, Rosemary. Is that okay, my love?
Yeah, that's fine. Andy's a friend of mine on my Facebook, so he should be able to find me.
Well, there we are. We'll look up. We'll hook up and get into that. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're more than welcome. What do you think about that, Dave?
Well, we've got the same thing going on here, as you said. The only remedy, really, to this institutionalized treason that's going on in America as well, with the North American Union, is over there, it's impeachment. But the people need to stand together and do this. In this country, we have Article 61, which is due process of law under the constitutional laws of our country, which we can use, we need to use. That you're never going to get remedy, as we've seen time and time again in their system, in their not courts of law, in their corporate treasonous private enterprises. No way can you get remedy. Guy Taylor's tried, he's tried very hard, and he's done a very good job. But he's saying now, we've done everything we can. There's no remedy in these courts, and obviously there's not. So I'm saying there is remedy, but it takes, it's an individual stance to stand under Article 61. And to use it, and to put people under, those that will still come after you, put them under pressure of the treason matter, because it's a very strong, powerful remedy, and they don't want to commit high treason. If anyone comes after me now, after what I've done, and this was 2 years ago since they backed off, and I've not heard anything since. But anyone that comes after me now will be committing high treason, because of all the documentation that I've sent in. So I set up quite a paper trail of defence, and nobody wants to do it at the moment. they might change their minds now. They've actually destroyed the common law on the 1st of November last year, but so far they haven't.
No. We're still I'm getting some feedback there. Whoever's put somebody mute their mic. Oh, that's better. Yeah. So. Yes, we got all that, Dave. Fantastic. Now then, sir, could we drill into a bit of how you self have implicated Article 61 and the successes you've had from that, Dave?
Well, yeah. Like I said, to start with, it was the registration of the truck and the corruption that went on with that matter. Like I said, I went after the Attorney General, Dominic Grieve at the time, with a very similar notice to the one that I've indicated earlier. That and serving non-jurisdiction notices on the magistrates' court, and putting the individuals that are coming after me, like the illegal advisor and the court manager, under misprision of treason notice. So that's where they back off. It's the same with the chief inspector. That you don't hear from them again, because if they do, once you've evidenced the treason matter, which I've done, and it's quite evidential, if they come after me, then they're going to be committing blatant high treason, and of course the death penalty still applies to that in this country, no matter what those imposters in Westminster might tell you. I need to mention about the 1795 Treason Act. Some will say that Tony Blair repealed that in 1998 with the Criminal Justice Bill, I think it was. But actually, the guy had committed 3 counts of treason, and anything he did was unlawful anyway. But to try and repeal the Treason Act and the death penalty for it is an act of treason at common law itself. So obviously the 1795 Treason Act and the death penalty accompanying it is still in force under common law.
Yes, it would be essentially entrenched.
It's entrenched, yeah. I mean, we either accept that we now have no common law and just get on with it, or we stand up and use the common law. There's a lot of double thinking in the free-man movement, and there's a lot of movements actually where they claim to be under common law, but they're not observing probably the most important common law tenet there is, and that is Article 61. If you don't observe Article 61 and go after these people on the treason matter, you're going to struggle. You're not going to get a remedy. And, it's our lawful duty, it's not just our right, but it's our duty to defend our realm and defend the common law. Because without common law courts, there is no way we're going to get peaceful remedy.
Absolutely, my friend. I couldn't have put it better myself.
I'd like to say one more thing about the Common Law Court of Wales and the one in Coventry. You see, it's a little bit double think because actually, like I said, if you're standing under common law, if there's one criminal court in this country that is not a common law jurisdiction, then Article 61 applies. And that's basically simple as that. Article 61 applies. And if we don't do what the letter of the law says, what actually Article 61 says, then we're not standing under the common law at all.
Well, yes, and also I would say to go with that, under Magna Carta itself, is the liberty of the people is upheld by the discretion of the juries. The jury is an essential check on power.
Yeah.
But we've got ourselves to a point today where, of course, after these great charters were done and the fraud got thicker and things where they totally discharged and disconnected the juries from the people, which is again treason really against the contract to which they swore to uphold. Now we find out.
freedomtalkradio.co.uk.
Let's go!
This is the most diverse, most amazing, one of the funniest radio stations you could ever listen to on the internet. I've heard so much stuff from the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights.
The politics, the non-politics, the schmolitics, whatever you want to call them.
It's great.
Over to you, Darren.
Thank you, Andy. We got wiped out again, and so we must be saying the right things. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I think so. Right, where were we? Right, yes, I think we were. The liberty of the people is upheld to the discretion of the juries, and if they mess around with that, which they certainly are on a daily basis, then you're quite correct. The courts are no longer representing the people, and something has to be done about it. Now, this remedy, you're quite right, lies within the Magna Carta, specifically in Article 61.
Yeah. I'd like to make a few points about that. It cannot be denied that it's been invoked. Okay. Some people, there's a lot of propaganda out there about, we don't even have a written constitution, and Magna Carta was signed under duress, which of course it was, but not at the point of a sword. He had a choice, and he rather wanted to keep his bum on the throne. So he.
Well, not only that, it's been reconfirmed 35 times. Some would argue since then, David.
That's right. It's been reconfirmed, and it's reaffirmed when the Barons.
Your sound has gone pretty bad there. Do you want to give your mic a tap, Dave? I think they're messing with it again.
You're pretty noisy. I haven't got a mic tap, so can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. We're getting a lot of feedback from other callers. Here we are.
Okay, that sounds better now to me. Is that all right for you?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Right, where was I? Let me just think where I was going with that. Magna Carta was reasserted again on the it would have been the 22nd of March 2001 when the the Office of Sovereign replied to the petition of the barons on the 39th day of the 40 days that were required for a reply to the petition, and so it can't be said that it's not valid, it's not current. Otherwise, Janvrin, who was Elizabeth Mountbatten's Windsor's private secretary, responded to the barons' petition. Otherwise, they wouldn't have bothered if it wasn't current and valid, and they had to do so. It's also been affirmed by Jackstraw in 2008, and again by other individuals within the established order. So,
I believe the Speaker of the House was one of the last to absolutely confirm the existence of the Constitution and the lawful.
What I find incredible is, most people don't believe what politicians tell you, right? And most people don't actually believe what the media tells you. But as soon as David Cameron goes on the BBC and says we haven't got a written constitution, half the country is now parroting the same propaganda. It's really ridiculous because it's like it's actually a laughable lie, because the British Constitution is well established. It's been there for 800 years and more, copied by other nations around the world, especially America. And just because it's not codified into one document, it makes no difference. It's totally there. It's lawful. It's usable, and we have to use it if we want to save it.
Yes, indeed, absolutely, it's there. And moreover, it's there for a reason. And the times which we are in now are absolutely dire need of these remedies. Now, we touched on this with our last guest, Lazarus. But yes, please go on, David.
Okay, well, I'd like to go a bit further now into one of the latest things we've done as a team in Glastonbury here in Somerset, where we seized the town hall. Now, we did this under Article 61. We did this as a demonstration of its power and as a protest against the police and the councillors of this area, who were all compounding treason, who were all acquiescing to our simple question, which is, where do you stand under Article 61? Of course, they've been ignoring us. We did it for about 3 months, actually, going to their public meetings in the town hall. And to start with, they said they would look into it, and it seemed quite what's the word? Interested. But in fact, they ignored it. So the police and the councillors both ignored our requests and our demands, actually, and not acting as public servants at all, but acting as the corporate whores that they are. And I'm sorry, but that is what they're doing. They're they're working for the corporations, and there's also a big Freemason movement in the Glastonbury Council, and so it's very corrupt here. And that's why we seized the town hall, and we did it successfully. There's only 7 of us who did it. We did it peacefully. We asked them to call the police. The police came, agreed with us that we were doing nothing unlawful, and we got every right to do this, and they left us to it. So that's another demonstration that that is what we can do in lawful rebellion.
Well, yes, I'd say it's more than a demonstration. It's more than just a gesture. It's very symbolic. It's the first cries, the first charge, if you like, the first stages of this comeback.
Yeah.
I mean, some would almost lost hope with the signing of these treaties and whatnot, but I look at it as if it could be not the final nail in the coffin, but the straw that finally broke the camel's back. This is the one. People have really got to wake up now and realise that they are being asset stripped, not only of their assets, but of course their rights, their liberties, their freedom, their children's freedoms.
And their health. Yeah, their health as well. It's the most important.
Absolutely. We find ourselves under attack on many levels. Now, very good that you brought that up. Let's go into some of the European Union's objectives, including Codex Alimentarius and Agenda 21. Can we drill into that a bit? these days.
Yeah, I actually sat here with more of an expert on Agenda 21, Sandy Adams. She's done a few. She's part of the group here, and she's done a few talks on Agenda 21. It's a very important issue. If you look at it from their perspective, it all looks rosy and environmentally sustainable and all that. But actually, when you look into the facts of the matter, it takes away all our rights and freedoms even more. No private property. The rewilding program. It's all about segregating the people really from nature and putting us into high-rise smart cities that they're actually building now. In various Bristol and Liverpool, is it Manchester too? Yeah. And this is all evidential. If you look at look, I don't know a lot about that personally, so I can't really talk too much about Agenda 21.
I'd lay a few examples there. Basically, they're trying to cattle us and herd us under a banner called sustainable development, which essentially is slowly killing us for profit and sucking us of our energy, of our livelihood, of our families, of our communities, stealing our children, all for profit, all driven by greed, by leeches, represented treasonous leeches who sit there and, as you say, these odious people who believe they're above the law and actually sovereign. Paedophiles, by the way, most of them.
Yeah.
So this is where we're at. You're quite right, sir.
Well, what we've done is we've actually proven that this remedy works. This remedy works, but you need to be honourable in law. So we didn't start off attacking the council. We went in there as, assuming that they were servants of the public. So we went in there honourably. At the end of the day, on the final meeting, I was shouting at them, because we tried the honourable approach. I have done with the police. I have done with some of those in Westminster. But there's a time when we don't have to be quite as honourable. It's time that we start shouting at these people and start telling them what we're going to do about it and what they have to do, and exposing these criminals, because that's exactly what they are.
Absolutely.
That's what we've been doing here in Glastonbury, and we're not finished yet. But I've got to say that those that attended the town hall seizing, some of those have been under attack since. Okay, one of the other chap that was with me, had his rent allowance stopped, and one of the honourable ladies that was there has now been sentenced to 7 days in prison for contempt of courts, for a county court summons which she wasn't going to attend. And so and others have been under attack as well since this. So you've got to understand, they don't just back off. They try to they come after you because they want to assert their alleged authority and see how far you're going to go with it, I think.
Well, we can have free-thinking slaves that have no fear. That won't do. They'll have to try to get the boot back on the throat somehow. Yeah. Of course, I'm just fooling about, but it shows that you have got these people on the run.
They're scared, that's for sure.
Yes, exactly. I'd be encouraged by that.
It's like the day after we seized the town hall, they locked it up. They shut it down, and they didn't want to open the doors to the public. This just proves that they're in fear.
Well, yes. Once they've rattled, they really don't know what to do. And when they're faced with self-evident truth and truth of law as well, they simply can't. They see that it's truth. Yet within the concept, in order for them to function within their role, their treasonous role, they have to somehow bypass that truth. They can't stand it. It's almost like looking in the mirror. They cannot stand what they've actually become. Because once faced with the fraud that they are helping to facilitate, they've really got to sell a bit of their soul in order to carry on in their jobs and installating and part of the cog within this crushing machine, aren't they?
Yeah. They've got no choice. And this is what makes lawful rebellion, or standing under Article 61 so powerful, because all we're doing is we're providing evidential facts. We don't have to tell lies or make things up. All we're doing is telling the truth, and they can't rebut the truth, and it's an unassailable defence because of that.
They can't rebut it, but they can't stand it either.
Well, they can't rebut it in truth. All they can do is commit crimes, and this is the power of lawful rebellion. What you do is you put them in the position where they can't come after you, because if they do, they're going to commit a very serious crime. And the reason they're in fear about this is because they don't really know how this is going to go. They don't really know. If the people stand up tomorrow, then I've got a number of individuals who I'm going to have in the dock, in a proper court of law, and they're going to be facing very serious allegations.
Well, yes, indeed. I mean, the way we see this going, I mean, I've spoken to this with quite a few people, and it's going to come a time, I think, where verdicts will be passed by grand juries, and providing the awareness of at least 30, maybe 50% would be nice of the population fully aware of such verdicts, then we can start nabbing these people then as a people and putting them under house arrest somewhere.
We really need to get the grand juries reasserted, because obviously they stole the grand juries back in the 1920s, destroyed them. I think it was around the time of the Gold Standards Act, 1921, and the kind of the magistrates' courts became kind of the grand juries, which they're obviously not. Because obviously a grand jury doesn't actually hear a matter; it just finds out whether there's a case to be heard, and then it's passed on to the courts.
Absolutely.
We do have the right to create posse comitatus, which is groups of individuals that have the authority to go and arrest some of these individuals. But we need to get the police on board, and believe me, there are plenty of good people within the regime that really want us to get on and do this, because they feel trapped and they get attacked if they do anything. Now, if we make it, if enough of us actually get off our arses and make it very difficult for them to not follow the law, then some of them are going to break and say, look, we've got no choice. We have to go and arrest these people.
Well, not only that, what we can do by giving them a lawful verdict from a common law court is finally they will have a tool in order to go. I mean, we know how these systems of power work. There's only a few corrupt individuals within these systems that are pulling the strings. And as you quite rightly stated, majority actually of the people who are stuck within these systems they're in the same boat as us. I mean, they're normal people, but they're caught in a debt-slave system.
That's right.
Half asleep. But given a tool like a verdict, then they are being forced in a position where, listen now, you either act or you don't. Now, if they weren't to act, I'll just finish this quick point, Dave, and then I'll hand it back to you, brother. But if they then fail to act, then if providing, say, for argument's sake, we've got 50%, it'll take a while, but we're on the right track of awareness out there. Then if we were to nab these people lawfully and put them under house arrest anywhere in the country, then if they were to pull, say, myself in on a kidnap charge or whatever they try to ring up in order to do it, they would never let me go to a jury of 12, because I'd be able to present lawfully how we've come to this point. And, of course, a jury will have to decide that. But, I mean, it'd be a case of who's Spartacus, who's nabbed in. I'm Spartacus. I mean, they wouldn't have a clue who's actually nabbed the guy, because it'd be everybody's duty within the realm to enforce such a judgment. But there we are. I've waffled on a bit there. Back over to you, David.
Well, you see, the thing is with setting up a court like the Common Law Court of Wales is it's not going to get recognised for a start, and I don't think that you're going to get remedies by doing that, because it won't be recognised. And also, like I said, it's not following the common law demands. I mean, and the common law, the Article 61 makes demands on us. It's not something you can sit on the fence of. It's either you reject the criminal regime, or you are actually aiding it by your tacit consent. Pardon?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, this is why we got no business in their courts. They're not our courts, they're corporations.
That's right. And strictly under constitutional law, we have the highest authority in the land are the Committee of the Barons. Now, I have to say that they're a rather disappointing bunch. Rutland seems to be a bit of a dodgy one. Mazarine's not accepting oath of allegiances anymore, and I want to go into a little bit more about the oath of allegiance in a minute. And Ashbourne's got dementia, so he's kind of out of the game. So Hamilton is probably the only one that's got a question mark whether he's on board or not, and he was the last of the four that I would say has any credibility, apart from Ashbourne, who's ill, who actually petitions the office of sovereign on the 7th of February 2001. I thought I'd lost you then. It's all right. Where was I? Sorry, I've lost my track there.
Yes, you were just making the point how Article 61, and how that splices in with the courts. Right,
yeah. So the Barons Petition the Committee are the highest authority in the land, and they have the right to convene and to set up posse comitatus. I mean, this is all under the letter of law. This is all following the constitutional laws to the letter. You see, so we can't really invoke common law if we're not going to actually use it. You know, the letter and the spirit of the law. And of course, Article 61 being the security clause it's a very important common law tenet, of course, and we have to use it or we're going to lose it, and it's basically as simple as that.
Okay. Okay, I'd just like to give out the details to anyone who'd like to come in with any questions. You can call in on 347-677-0812. If you're outside the UK, it's 001347 6770 812. You can email questions at the Common Law Court of Wales at outlook.com, and you can also visit our website, and that will be www.thecommonlawcourtofwales.co.uk. Our guest this evening is Dave Robinson. Fascinating chat, all primarily on Magna Carta and the implication of Article 61 in the times we find ourselves today. So please come in. We've got about half hour left. It'd be wonderful to hear your views. Right, back over to you, Dave. I'd like to pick it up there.
Yeah, well, I'd like to just chat a little bit about those within the regime, a little bit more that people don't seem to realise there are a lot of good people within the regime that don't like what's going on. Now, I've had, following my case, that the matter I was on about with the deregistration of the truck, I had two ex-magistrates supporting me. I came to the trial to the turn up to, incidentally, and a High Court judge. And I've also had police constables taking me aside and saying, look, we do agree with you what you're saying. And, we're not happy, but, we're kind of trapped. So I just wanted to mention that again.
Very important point.
Well, well, they're there. I mean, I call them the silent majority. I think there is a group called the silent majority, but they are honourable people. But there is a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear out there because we know that these are very dangerous people. In Westminster, they've committed acts of terrorism, genocide, war crimes, and murder, and all kinds of stuff. And they're carrying on doing it. So they're very dangerous. We need to get them away from sharp objects ASAP. Also, I'd like to talk a little bit about the semantics we use, because you see, if we start talking, calling a spade, okay? I hear too many times people saying, "Oh, I went to court the other day, and the judge said this." And well, actually, what you went to was a corporate treasonous enterprise, a private enterprise, and you talked to a corporate director. So once we start actually getting the semantics right and telling people how it really is, I think it will break the illusion down a bit quicker. What do you think?
I think it would, of course it would. We have a question there, kind of ties in. Andrew in the chat room is asking, can you ask Dave what he thinks about anarchy.
Okay. Well, the true definition of anarchy, to my understanding, is to live without any rules over us, yeah? Is that correct?
That's how I would see it, yes, without government.
Well, I would say that the human race is evolved enough to be able to live in an anarchic society, because not enough of us are honourable enough. Not enough of us are educated enough. And I'm not putting us down as a human race because of any other reason, that we've been kept down. We've been kept in ignorance, and we don't even know, half of us don't even know what honour is, you know. And so I don't think we can live in a society at the moment in a true anarchic society. I think we need to go back to common law. We need to look into, because it's a very, it's common sense law anyway. It's natural law. And then we need to kind of push honour and push the aspects of human nature which make us human, and get that more out there again and promote it. Maybe one day we could live in a proper society without any laws. I certainly don't feel that I need anyone to tell me what I need to do and what I don't need to do. I think I have it within me, as I'm sure we all do, really. Or most
yes, and I mean this is a critical point actually. As we come to an end of this cycle of this debt slave system, I mean these cycles have been and come before. We can study these in times gone by. But the way these bastards have framed it now is that they've got all the children and the programming. It's all tuned up from ultra violence. Now, this started off through media maybe 30 years ago, with the Clockwork Orange, maybe further before that. I can't remember the date of it. But we got a few generations coming through now that haven't really interacted as a community at all. In actual fact, they've been locked off from community, and they're in their bedrooms playing these major violent games. And then they come downstairs, they watch the TV, and they're watching ultra violent, even the cartoons, it's quite frightening. I mean, I don't come into contact with TV much in my day-to-day living, but good grief, when I do come across it, it's startling.
It is.
Then you take the music, everything's geared up. So, I mean, we need to get systems in place, because this one is crumbling, and is crumbling before our eyes. Yeah. We need to get these systems in place so that these our lost children, we need to help them in this transition, because if there is no other systems there in order to keep a form of discipline, then things can quite quickly get out of hand, and I believe they planted these seeds of super violence within the youth of today. And what do you think about that, Dave?
Absolutely. TV it was designed to be a mind control tool, and it is. There's so many subliminals within television, and the fact that alpha waves are addictive. It's the perfect tool. If it wasn't for TV, I don't think we would be quite as unevolved as we are, But I think it could still be used for good. I think we could have. Can you imagine EastEnders all sitting in the bar talking about how honourable Betty down the road is? You could actually use it to re-educate the people. I mean, all these tools can be used for bad or for good. So that would be my take on it.
Yes, indeed. But even something like the TV, which if you look into it, I mean, it certainly evolved through quite a murky invention. I think, if memory is correct, it was to contact the other realms of reality, let's say. It goes up through the ether, doesn't it? The signal, it actually goes out of our existence and comes back into our existence when it tunes into your TV set. So it does actually transverse the ether, if you like. Basically, what worries me now is the technology they've got today. Because like with HD TV, high definition TV, they can use it's a weapon really. It's called silent sound spread
spectrum, and you can look into that and see how they can actually use silent sound to program you basically. And also,
yes, I mean, along with the sound, of course, is the vision, and with a series of flashes, they can have you in a semi-hypnotic state in no time.
That's right. It turns you into it's the alpha waves. It gets you into that suggestive, not suggestive, into that perceptive state. Pardon?
Yeah.
Well, it is a something.
Yeah, and then you're bombarded with all the filth and violence. I mean,
it's a choice. This is the thing today. It's a choice. Being programmed is actually a choice. And I have had a television for countless years now, because I recognise, it's to zonk me out. It's supposed to end up drooling almost, in my lap, sort of watching this bloody thing. So, I gave it up. I don't want to be programmed. Thank you very much. And it's a choice these days. Yeah?
Well, indeed, and there's the word programmed. They don't call it programming for nothing, and that's it. I'd say it'd be the primary weapon that's been used to divide not only the family, but the people as a whole. I mean, it's a treacherous thing. But anyway, we'll move on from that. I mean, we're under attack on so many other levels today, but as what is self-evident now, that these treacherous politicians, I see these moves as pure acts of desperation. Yeah. It's a system that is desperate to keep going. But what does bug me is how desperate are they going to get? Are these people? Are they going to burn down the house, so to speak?
Look, mate, there is nothing that they will not do. There is nothing that they will not do to keep hold of their control. There's nothing they will not do. They'll destroy us all, and that's what they want to do. If anyone thinks that we're not actually in any mortal danger, they need to just wake up, look around them, look in the sky, look at what's in the water, look what's in the food, look what's in our medicines, and everything else in our society. They have a very, very, very evil agenda. And they're doing it now. I mean, there's no reason that people are dying. There's no reason people should be dying of cancers. We've got cures for cancer. It's happened for ages.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd encourage anyone who's not familiar with the things that they've been doing in the medicine to just read the Cancer Act.
Yeah, and look at some of the patients that they've got hidden away. I mean, and look at Bob Beck protocols, because there you go. I mean, that's a proven remedy for cancer and anything, absolutely anything. It cures everything. So we've got it all there.
Yeah, we certainly have.
Getting over the ignorance and actually being sovereign and discerning what is truth for yourself, and stop believing what other people tell you. Even don't believe anything I've told you today. Research all this stuff. You can find out that it's true or not true. And I'm saying it is true because I've practiced it and used it. But hold on.
Yeah, absolutely. They've suppressed not only technology, medicine. I mean, just on technology, the work of Nikolai Tesla and people like that, Walter Russell, Victor Schauelsberger. I mean, the list goes on and on of geniuses from the people whose works have been crushed in order to keep us in slavery.
When you look at how long ago all this has happened, I mean, look at Tesla, turn of the century, and that just goes to show how long this plan for a global takeover and to keep people in civility has been going on. So it's been going on for hundreds of years. But it's escalated now because they know we're waking up and they are getting worried. So they have escalated things to quite a degree.
Absolutely. Have we got any callers who'd like to come in and have a question there, Andy?
No, mate, but there's a lot of questions in the box if you read them.
Oh, yeah. Would you like to read one or two out? I'm lost. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can read one if you want.
Go on, yeah. If you could read one or two, I'm having trouble finding the box, Andy. Go on.
Yeah, Dave Witcher asks, can you ask Dave, as I'm cooking, how does he feel the trend is going and what he feels the numbers of people who are waking up? And then there's a sub-question that I put. given the people are waking up, will they actually do something about it?
And so I'd say some terrible feedback coming back from Dave. I don't know what he's doing, but it sounds dodgy.
That's not from me.
Oh, I tell you what. Anyway, I don't answer that, Dave.
That's not coming from me. Yeah, basically...
Oh, it was Mr. Witcher, for anyone who was wondering, but what he was doing, I don't know, but I know what it sounded like.
Well, how's the trend going? Right, everyone's in fear. Why? Well, because they're still living in ignorance, a lot of them, and they're not looking at the evidence, facts, and the remedy that we've offered. And despite my attempts to ask people to look into this and to start promoting it, it's incredible the amount of people that are in fear. And you've only got to look at the video we shot of taking the town hall at Glastonbury to show there's no need for fear. They're the ones in fear. They want to promote. They want to, put you in fear. So they will act. The police and stuff will act against you if they think you're in ignorance and you don't really know what you're doing. They will come down on you heavy. So you need to, look at the very simple remedy that we've got and actually start, using it and look how it has been used and how you can use it peacefully, lawfully, and in a way that actually makes them back off. How's the trend going? We're struggling. Okay, people are looking at all kinds of other remedies, and it baffles me. I think it's collective suicide, frankly. What more has a man got to do? I've rebutted summons, fines, warrants from arrest. We've seized at town hall. What more have I got to do to prove that this actual remedy works?
Well done. And of course, it's all out there. The proof is there for anyone who wants to follow up. We encourage anyone out there listening to go and research the things, the topics we've gone over this evening. We've spanned over quite a few. There's a hell of a lot of information this evening's show, and we urge you not to take our word for it, but go out there and if any of this has tweaked you, go and check it out.
Can I mention my Facebook group page, please?
Of course, mate. We've got plenty of time. Crack on.
Okay, well, in the files of my Facebook group page called Practical Lawful Dissent, you will see all the evidence of treason. You'll see a list of all the 25 barons that invoked Article 61. You'll see blogs about how we use the remedy. There's about 99 files in there. Okay, you're not going to probably want to read them all, but if you want to look at this remedy, that's the place to go. Because the only place on the internet I know that it's kind of collectively all in one place. And really, it took me a long time to get all this stuff together. I've got examples of notices, how to write notices and affidavits. I've got examples of ones that I've written and used. And it's just, there's everything you need to actually stand in lawful rebellion and start standing up for your rights and freedoms and your children's future.
Absolutely. That's it. We've done some great work compiling that, and it is a wealth of information there. I visited it, and David's quite right. The files he's put together there are very worthy of research, and indeed, if you find the courage to actually start to take these steps in lawful rebellion, you'll find you're not alone. But it does take a slight bit of courage, but life will not overextend you, I find, David. Once you start on this path of freedom, for want of a better way of describing it, opportunity. The conditioned mind demands proof, doesn't it? And if you got a little bit of courage, life won't overextend you, but it just takes a little bit of courage to start taking these steps, and soon enough, the proof will be provided for your conditioned mind, and slowly but surely, you can start to detach yourself and go on. Sorry, brother.
Sorry, you don't have to be particularly courageous. All we're doing to start with on the process is a notice of conditional acceptance. So you're just asking questions. You're saying, look, I want to actually pay that, or I want to actually, come to your court, but actually I'm standing in law for rebellion, and under the constitutional law of the country, it says that if I do, I'm committing a criminal offence. What do you say? And so you're not actually saying, writing something and making any demands on them or stating what you're not going to do or what you are going to do. You're saying, well, that's my understanding of the law. What do you say? And of course, that puts them on the spot. When they acquiesce to your notice, when they don't answer your notice, or they don't reply to your notice in substance, which means that they have to answer the points that you put in the notice, then your notice becomes your truth in law, and they're in dishonour. And so there's a 4-notice process that I have suggested people, or not. I can't say that I suggested it. This is what I've used. Now, all I can do is state, look, I'm not a leader, or I'm a leader of myself. But I'm not a leader or a teacher. I'm just showing you, look, this process I used, and this is how I used it, and this was the results of it. So, I have to make that disclaimer because I'm not lawfully trained. I'm just a layman as to the law. So I hope that's cleared up that.
Yeah, I mean, of course. But again, all these things are there for people. It may seem as if it's despairing. I mean, the call we had from the USA earlier on, I mean, that's too much of a similar story.
Yeah.
If you're still listening, we'll definitely be hooking up with you to give you some support in that.
Very similar remedy there, because the USA a treasonous administration again, and it's really down to the people. The only way that you can thwart an institutionalized treasonous regime is for the people to join together, to stand together. Now, it doesn't take the whole of the country. It takes about 3 to 5% of the people traditionally in rebellions, like in the Glorious Revolution, and rebellions that have happened across the globe. It's only been about 3 to 5% of the people that actually stood up and created this, So it's a very small amount. I mean, in compared to there's 63 million people or more in this country. So what's 3% of that? I mean, it's quite a lot of people. But I think there are enough of us awake to know that there is something seriously wrong going on, and enough of us to actually stand together. Like I really like the response crew because they're acting really courageously, and I think some of these guys are in law for rebellion, and they're stopping criminal banksters stealing people's homes, which is fantastic. And I really support that kind of movement because it's peaceful and they're using the law to do that. So, brilliant work.
Yeah.
We need more of that. We need people to start standing together. We need people to start creating small groups in your area. And we advocate going after your local councillor, your local police. Now, when I say going after them, with the police, we have a phrase which we call lobby the Bobby because it has, it provides the right kind of sentiment of what we're actually trying to do is come on, guys, we've got evidence here that the truth is you are supporting criminals. And if enough of us were to do this, hammering on their consciousness, if you like, some of them are going to collapse. Some of them are going to they're at least going to wake up to the fact that they're committing criminal offences. Now, if they still carry on doing that, then we can serve notices on them and make them lawfully accountable for their actions or their omissions.
Yes, and it's a way forward, and these things need to be initiated, as you quite rightly pointed out, at a local level in the community, the small ones. I mean, this is what we concentrate on here in Wales. I mean, just a quick advert for me being so bold. Our next local meeting is at the Naval Club in Sandfields on the 20th. That's this coming Tuesday. All are welcome as usual, and we look forward to seeing you then. Dave, we've got about 7 minutes left, my friend. What advice would you give in summary, or how would you like to sum up? But thank you for a wonderful evening. I've really enjoyed your company. I'm sure our listeners have too. And in actual fact, we're starting to have some feedback now, and people saying that they really enjoyed it.
Right, that's great.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that. But
I've got another point that I'd like to talk about before I finish up.
It's over to you. You can see us. We've got about 7 minutes left, my friend. But thank you if we do run out. Thank you very much.
I want to just talk very quickly about the oath of allegiance. That I don't think I've mentioned this quite yet. Now, the reason we send an oath to one of the barons is so that we are not considered, or it's not presumed that we're outlaws. We don't need a response. It's better if it's received, and we send it recorded post, since we can check whether it's been received. But the point of sending an oath is so that you can prove your intention, because obviously intention is very important in law. Without any intention of the crime, there is no crime committed under the common law. It's mens rea. There has to be a mens rea, criminal intent. So now, because the barons seem to be not as we would like, I've started considering how do we declare that we're in lawful rebellion. Well, I suggest now that when someone's coming after you, someone who is in a position of authority, then you can rebut it by standing in lawful rebellion and actually declare that you're in lawful rebellion and standing under the barons, under Article 61, the positions of the barons, to whoever you're in contact with, and that is a declaration that you're in lawful rebellion. You see, so you make sure that you send it recorded delivery. You keep the photo receipt. You take a photocopy of your notice and keep it all together. Keep it all safe and secure. You can check on track and trace. Maybe take a screenshot, because it'll be if it's been accepted, if it's been received, then that's classed as it's been accepted in law. Because then if it's not rebutted, you get no response, then it becomes your truth in law. In fact, we make the law this way. If I serve notice on someone that's rebutted, that's my truth in law. You've had your chance to respond to it, and if you didn't, well, you agreed to it. That's how they trick us. So if you get a summons and you don't respond to it, or a notice which you don't respond to, then they can come after you when you don't respond to it, because you're in dishonour, basically. So we don't necessarily need to send an oath of allegiance to the barons, but we need to understand that there's such a corrupt lot that we don't want to be classed as outlaws, So we need to declare that we're standing under the common law and do it that way, I think. Okay, that's just one thing I wanted to state. What was it you wanted me to state? What can people do now? What was it you wanted me to finish up with? What people might want to do now, or how they?
Yes, just basically for the person who may be listening in for the first time, they come across this information, they've not heard it before. What advice would you give?
My advice would be to look into this remedy before even using it. Don't jump in the deep end like I did. Okay, although I learnt a lot from it, I made some mistakes. It didn't cost me too much, but in this day and age, it could cost you a great deal. So don't jump into this remedy and use it willy-nilly. Look into it. It's very simple. Don't think it's really complex. The common law is very simple. Constitutional law is all written down. You can read up on it. But read Article 61. It's not that long. Okay, it's been translated from Latin. So you want to be careful that you get a very good translation of it. I would go to a constitutional group to check that out. But I've got a good one on my Facebook group page. Read it and understand that we conceive buildings. And we have a duty to compel others as well by the use of law to stand with us. Otherwise, you're actually aiding and abetting the treasonous regime. So be careful, right, and be honourable. If you look at the processes that I suggest that I've used, you're not actually you're being honourable with your affidavits and notices, and you can't really you can't mess up by using the process I've used. You have to be aware that you may well become a target for corruption, obviously. But what people need to understand is we're in a situation where we've got no choice. Either we sit back on our arses and watch TV and lose all our rights and freedoms and our lives, because that's what it's ultimately coming to, or you start making start rejecting this regime. Stop going to summonses. These summonses are unlawful. You're easy to rebut. do these three things, right? Lobby the bobby. Do not accept any court summonses, county magistrates' court summonses for certain, and start seizing buildings, people. Get little groups together. You can do it with half a dozen people. Try and lobby the police and the councillors first, and if they don't listen to you, start seizing buildings. It's a powerful remedy that it's going to disrupt public services, but I'm afraid we've got to do something. So think about it and be careful, guys. That's about it. Well, that's very good advice, and thank you again from everyone at Common Law Court of Wales, David. For anyone who wants to catch up with Mr. David Robson's work, also known as David Messenger, you can find his group on Facebook. Just shout that out one last time, Dave. We've got about 60 seconds. Very much. Practical Lawful Dissent. We've also got a website. It's not fully complete, but it's practicallawfuldissent.co.uk. Thank you. Thanks very much for inviting me on the show. You're more than welcome, brother. We'll have you back again because we can dig into it a bit more. Okay. Thank you very much, Darren. Thank you, mate. All the best. Thank you. Bye. Bye, man. Well, there we go, guys. That was our guest this evening. I hope you enjoyed. Fascinating talk, and we look forward to next week's show. That's about it, really. So have a pleasant evening, and good night, everyone. And she can be arranged in the courts because she's not the holder of the office of sovereign. But by the fact that many unlawful, unconstitutional laws have been passed, and as soon as the first one was passed, she was deposed or usurped from the crown. Absolutely. Now, now that we've touched on sovereignty, what would you say would be sovereign? Would it be Parliament, the Queen, or the law itself, David? What's your line of thinking on this? Well, the people are sovereign. What happened is really, when you look into it, now Parliament have claimed the sovereignty, but they don't have sovereignty. They're servants. They're public servants, or supposed to be. In fact, today, they're imposters, but they're supposed to be public servants. Now, the sovereignty is with the people. It's derived from the people, and it was given in protection to the monarch to protect it under under various constitutional documents, but the Coronation Oath Act in particularly. So what we've got today is an empty office of sovereign. The imposters in government claiming sovereignty, but as soon as she breached the Coronation Oath, the sovereignty came back to the people. And of course, when our courts, as you mentioned earlier, are so corrupt, when there is no remedy in these courts, we have remedy under Article 61 of Magna Carta. So I've probably gone off a bit of a tangent there. So if you want to come back in and guide me back on. No, that's fine. But I just touched on your point that, yes, indeed, that members of the Parliament, they're not sovereign, but they certainly act as if they do. But more worrying is that the police seem to think they do. An example of that would be a bit of an undercover video work that a brave gentleman by the name of Ben Fellows done, where he brought an allegation against Ken Clark. The police were called to his home in order for him to make his complaint, for want of a better way of describing it, and he actually taped the whole thing. And there was absolutely no way, no suggestion at all that these people were going to even go and question this Ken Clark about it. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. What's your thoughts on that, David? Well, this is a typical thing that happens within an institutionalized treasonous regime. There is no law. There is no rule of law available. There's no protection from the Constitution available to the people. And of course, they just run amok, and it's all to their little success. But what I did was I notified DVLA that I was deregistering my truck, and that I was in lawful rebellion and that I have lawful excuse to do this, and they've got no right to make any demands on me because of my standing. And of course, I could prove my standing by serving them with copies of my affidavit to Buckingham Palace. Yeah.
Was that a way of a notice of intent, David?
Well, it was a yes. Basically, I copied and used the same ones John Harris had provided, actually. And it's a bit of double thinking, Bob, because I got a solicitor, a member of the bar, to sign it. But still, the point was to create a paper trail. And I didn't have to do that anyway, because like I said, it's already been done. You don't have to write to Buckingham Palace. She's not even the Queen. I mean, there's a lot of double think involved in the free man movement and the whole topic in general, because there's been such a lot of propaganda out there, to do with our Constitution and Magna Carta.
Certainly has. Yes, I'm saying it certainly has. You say that about the Queen, but how do you think about, basically, is she abducted?
Basically,
by default, do you think? Can you dig into that for a few of our listeners who may not be familiar with the actions of our dear monarch of late?
Okay, well, of course, the treason in this country can go back to 104 years now, to the 1911 Parliament Act, because the duty of a constitutional monarch is to prevent any laws being passed that don't comply to the Constitution. And the 1911 Parliament Act diluted the royal assent by making it so that the monarch couldn't withdraw or pass a law without the aid of a government minister, which was actually unconstitutional, therefore treason. So Elizabeth Mountbatten, which is her real name really, she's not British, she's German, has always been an imposter on the throne here. Now, it's going to be hard for some people to actually take on board, but you can see for yourself that when she signed the Coronation Oath Act in 1953, she signed it at the top of the document and underlined it. Well, the Coronation Oath Act is a contract. And, as we all know, contracts are signed at the end of all the wording. Well, that wasn't done. And she deposed herself of the title. Now, I say she's deposed herself of the title, but she could have been usurped. Now, that's not for me to judge, really. That is for a jury of our peers to judge. So they committed fraud. A lot of cover-up. They stole my truck, impounded it, put an unlawful lien on it, didn't give me a chance to address the lien. Then they claimed there wasn't a lien on it, and they put a retention order on it. Basically, they kept my home from me for about nearly a month, and by corruption, basically, which I can prove. We've got video evidence of the phone calls and everything else. But so what I did was I headed off to Yorkshire and stayed with some freeman friends of mine for about 18 months, and I kept out of the way because I realised that the system was so corrupt that I would have no chance of remedy within their not courts of law. And so I got a little bit apathetic, actually, so I kept out of the way for a while, thinking, well, I've done my bit, But after a short time, after 18 months, quite a long time, actually, I decided to go back after them and create a document to try to achieve remedy, because I'm looking to get a trial by jury, of course, in a properly convened court de jure. So I wrote up a rather large affidavit, which can be viewed on Google or any internet browser. If you were to punch in David of the Robinson Family Affidavit of Truth, you'll see a rather large affidavit which I served on the court manager, the legal advisor of the court. Eventually, I also served one very similar on the Attorney General Dominic Grave, and of course, after I served this document, they all basically backed off, not only because of this document, but also I served notices of misprision of treason on individuals that were coming after me. Sorry?
Now then, that's very interesting. Can you explain the difference between treason and the way you framed it for the mechanics of law and how that seemed to get a result, David? It's a fascinating.
Well, it's a very powerful remedy, and because I have used it and it's worked every single time, I implore people to look at it. Right. Well, treason under the 1795 Treason Act. Section 1 is misprision of treason. Now, misprision is to know of an act of treason being planned or committed within or without the realm of the United Kingdom or Commonwealth, and not to report that crime to a justice of the peace as soon as you possibly can. Then you are also committing treason yourself. Now, that's a very important thing to know, because if I serve a notice of misprision of treason on a police chief inspector like I had done, and they don't report the crime, then I've got evidence against him for misprision of treason, which is a very serious crime. It's to do with deception. Now, because we are police by consent in this country, and we have lawful excuse to reject this current regime, that is basically all we have to do, is to reject it. They aren't lawful, the courts aren't lawful, and a summons is but an invite. Now, I've done this. I sent notice of non-jurisdiction to a summons, and the summons was withdrawn, as well as an arrest warrant. Also, I didn't pay the fines imposed. This is to do with my deregistration of the truck, by the way. It was about 3 or 4 months, but I did actually get arrested for it, just taking it on the road without tax insurance and MOT.
I feel like to drill into that a bit. I'd be very interested to know what happened there, Dave.
Well, I got arrested after a while. I didn't contract, didn't give joinder to the police, didn't consent to it. I was under duress at all times, so I was arrested, taken to Melton Police Station in Wiltshire, held overnight, and then up against the magistrates in the morning, where I claimed again under duress of circumstances, in lawful rebellion, lawful excuse to do what I'm doing. And I accepted leave to create my defence, so I accepted bail under duress and left to prepare my defence. But like I said, I didn't go back to the court. I served non-jurisdiction notices on the court, and but they basically still came after me at the time. So what I had to do was to get out of the way for a little while, and because I've had some intimidation from the local coppers, because I'd also tried to report the crime of treason at Devizes Police Station in the July of 2010, and had a complaint against the constable that wouldn't accept the evidence. So I was getting a little bit of hassle from the local cops. Not too bad, but it was enough to make me a little bit concerned. Also, a lot of corruption to do with my case. As I was, they forged my signature on a contract with a solicitor because I wasn't going to contract. So that was actually a forgery, which I've had investigated by one of the top 5 forensic examiners in the country, and have I've got a bit of feedback from that, which I can present as evidence. I also was denied all the video evidence of my detainment and arrest, and because the cops that arrested me committed fraud. They wouldn't make the differentiation between common law and statute, constitutional law, and the unlawful statutes that are around today. I started off by meeting an honourable lady called Elizabeth Beckett back in 1997, I think it was. And she'd been fighting the unlawful council tax for quite some time, and the government on other issues. And she explained what was actually going on. And because she had various treaties and stuff that I could actually look into myself, I became her mentor, really. She became my mentor for nearly 2 years, and I learned about what was happening and what we have to do to stop this, and that is to stand together against it. So I've come to this from a kind of a privileged angle, if you like, from actually understanding what treason is, what it means to us, and what it will mean to us if we allow this to carry on. So My main motivation was some years later, I'd hit the road and living in a 7.5-ton truck for sort of 10 years, spreading the word about the treasonous aspects of the EU and our imposters in government. And I came across a meeting that John Harris was putting on in Glastonbury. So I went down to listen to it, talking about the free man on the land movement and also lawful rebellion. And I got quite inspired, actually, by that talk. Then I decided to enter into lawful rebellion myself. And what I did was I served affidavits on Buckingham Palace myself, which was kind of double think. Didn't have to do that because the Barons Petition Committee had already done that in 2001. But I did that nevertheless to create a paper trail for my defence. And this is what we're doing while we're writing notices and affidavits. We're actually creating evidence for our defence and evidence against the criminals that are doing the bidding of the imposters in our country. So I didn't actually have anything pending at the time. I was living in a 7.5-ton truck, as I said, and so I went after the DVLA to deregister it because I'm not going to be in lawful rebellion, part way. I was going to actually practice it. Pardon?
That's right. You've got to live it, haven't you?
Well, you've got to do it. I mean, I've been talking about it for years, and I said, well, I said to myself, well, it's about time I actually practiced it, put it into, see if it really is going to work. It had already worked on another occasion. I was living at Avebury at the time, and I kind of took over. I took over the sanctuary car park at Avebury, claiming, because the council came up to try and evict a load of us, and I hit them with some treason information, and they went away. So I kind of took the car park over. That was like the first